Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in to Seeker Plus today. I am Trace. Welcome back. I'm excited. I hope you're excited too. Seeker Plus is a show where we take a big topic and we break it down into a bunch of episodes over a series so that we all understand it a little bit better. This series is going to be about meat. We're going to have 3 episodes. In the first episode, we're going to learn a bit about how, what meat is really and how we define it. Meat. Yeah! Let's kick into it. So, you know what meat means kind of inherently in your head, right? When you think meat, you have a picture that appears. But is that what meat really is? Etymology time, baby. I miss this show. Meat has been eaten forever, since antiquity. Humans, as long as there's been a human memory, we've eaten meat. And you think of meat likely as the flesh of an animal that is used for food. Merriam-Webster, the dictionary, says that it's the flesh of an animal. The American Meat Science Association says that meat is the edible tissues from an animal consumed as food. So meat would not be something we don't consume as food, according to the AMSA. But I find that really interesting because if you look into history and the etymology of the word meat, until the 14th century, the words meat and food were the same thing. If you were, out at a restaurant, if that existed in the 14th century, and you were like, "Hi, I would like some food." What you were saying out loud is, "Hello, I would like some meat, please." You were very polite in the 14th century. You didn't have that much else, okay? Politeness is all we had, just our manners. Anyway, food is Germanic. It comes from the verb to feed, or fodgen. I'm not going to pronounce that properly. But Bon Appetit, a magazine, says that meat might share a root with words like bread, shepherd, foster, and pasture. Because if you think about it, whatever we were eating, we were likely harvesting or going out and gathering and hunting for. We've been doing that for thousands of years. So to have a word that was related made sense. But it does cause a little bit of confusion as we start to layer more and more rules on top of our new society. For example, in the Bible, Genesis 1:30, God's all like, "I have given every green herb for meat, and it was so." So does that mean he gave all the green herbs for food? Because meat and food meant the same thing? Maybe. In other words, hey, Adam and Eve, eat these veggies. They're good for you. That's what I have given you to eat. I mean, it makes sense because until they ate the fruit, Adam and Eve didn't know death, which means they couldn't exactly slaughter an animal and eat it. That wouldn't really work with not knowing death. I mean, I'm not a scholar in the biblical sense. I'm just saying it's interesting, right? If you know that meat and food are the same thing, you can start to question a lot of different things that you read, especially throughout history. But let's move on from that for a minute. Etymology over. Eventually, we decided that something was food and something else was meat. So why don't we work backwards and say what we know meat is, right? What no one will argue that meat isn't. This is very confusing. Meat is definitely stuff like beef or chicken or pork, right? I think we can all agree. Goat's meat is also meat. A number of other things. There's lots. Beef is a red meat, comes from cows. Chicken is a white meat, it comes from chickens. Pork is a red meat. I know that's confusing because there was that commercial thing when we were kids, all like, hey, it's the other white meat. It's not, it's a red meat. They're all muscle tissues, but muscles aren't technically meat. We go back to the American Meat Science Association, and what they have said is that biochemical reactions that occur at the time of death and afterward turn muscles into meat. This is really fascinating stuff. See, blood isn't pumping through these muscles anymore at the time of death. So a salt called lactate builds up. It's milk-related, but again, it's a salt. And that accumulation of lactate decreases the pH of the muscle tissue. Over time, that is associated with the conversion of muscle into meat. Once the pH is altered, the muscle tissues can store a different amount of water. That amount of water affects the eating experience of the meat once you've cooked it, right? So that muscle tissue has become meat, and it has a different water storage experience. This is, again, according to the American Meat Science Association. And that's why muscles aren't technically just meat on their own. And if that wasn't confusing enough for you, because I hope you're coming with me on this, there are 2 different types of muscles that can become meat. There's red and white meat. Even though pork isn't white meat does exist. Chicken is white meat, for example. In the dictionary, they say any meat that is dark colored before cooking, as beef, lamb, venison, or mutton, is considered red meat. The USDA, or the U.S. Department of Agriculture, says that red meat contains more myoglobin, a protein in muscles that helps us store oxygen. And the Larousse Gastronomique from 1938, this old French cookbook, says that culinary definition of red meat is that it comes from mammals. That's the one that I tend to latch onto. I think it's the one that makes the most sense for me in my brain, that if it comes from a mammal, it is red meat. However, white meat also has its own definitions. For example, sort of in contrast to red meat, has less myoglobin in the muscles. It's, again, a protein that helps you store oxygen. And we had to decide somewhere where white and red had a line. And for me, again, mammals seems to make the most sense. According to the San Francisco Exploratorium, who has a whole science of cooking website, the white meat versus red meat discussion relates to how much activity the animals themselves do. Chickens, for example, don't really fly that much. They mostly just kind of walk around. And that makes their meat have a less myoglobin because it doesn't need as much oxygen as quickly to fly, and thus it's white. Cows, on the other hand, they also stand around, but they have a lot of different muscles, and thus they need more myoglobin for some reason. But is the meat different, is the question, right? That's the thing I kept coming back to while I was doing this research. Is red and white meat, are they that different? And they sort of are. Fast twitch muscles and slow twitch muscles exist in humans. We have them, and animals also have them. Fast twitch muscles are for like short-term activity, like flying for a few seconds if you're a chicken, or running really fast, like a sprint. Slow twitch muscles are for longer term activity, like swimming, or for running a more distance kind of situation. So inside of animals, they also have fast and slow twitch muscles, and different animals with different evolutions and different purposes have different ratios of those muscles. The fast twitch muscle is a white meat, and the slow twitch muscle is a red meat. So that is one way where we can define two different types. Really interesting. However, after all of this, if meat is sort of just another word for food and it's a specific type of food, and now we've said, okay, it tends to be from mammals and animals that are specifically mammals and also some other things like birds and stuff, you know, it gets very confusing to kind of draw a box around what this is. I think we can all agree that meat is from animals, right? Got the red meat, got the white meat, but they're both animals. So does that mean that all animals are meat? Not necessarily, because animals are the kingdom of life Animalia. That includes pigs and cows and chickens and goats and sheep and deer and buffalo, but also includes fish, which I think we can all agree now that fish is not meat. I once went to the Kingsford Invitational Barbecue Competition. I asked one of the best barbecuers in the world why they don't barbecue fish, and she looks at me and goes, "Fish ain't meat." True story. Fish ain't meat, apparently. Even though it's got slow twitch muscles, it's got very low myoglobin, we don't call it meat. On top of that, there are these other definitions that make things more confusing. To kind of touch back on religion again, you can't really avoid talking about meat without talking about kind of morality and religion and all of the other layers that we've put on top of meat, in part because we're killing an animal to eat it, and in part because there are economic benefits and drawbacks to having these types of products. Catholics, for example, don't eat meat on Friday, but it's not because the Pope made a deal with fishmongers, which is the common history. There's a really interesting article all about this, and it's because Jesus died on a Friday. To sacrifice an animal would be disrespectful to his sacrifice in that he died. And again, not a biblical scholar. Talk about it in the comments. We know that Catholics don't eat meat during Lent or on Friday, and meat is defined by that as chicken, cow, sheep, or pig, but not fish. You can eat fish on Friday, even though fish is a slow twitch muscle with low myoglobin, so would not be considered white meat. It's an animal, et cetera, et cetera. And most people know what a fish is, right? And you picture it kind of swimming in a river or an ocean or whatever. But in the 17th century, there was more of a discussion about what is a fish? What is it? Again, you picture one, but according to the church, beaver is a fish. That's right. Why? Well, Because in the 17th century, Native Americans and Canadians here in the New World loved to eat beaver. There were millions of them all over the New World, and they had a lot of value for their furs and for their meat, even though technically it's fish. So they would hunt and eat those beaver, and they were very concerned that during Lent they wouldn't be able to do that. It was one of their favorite meals. So the church said, okay, well, they swim a lot. They're really good swimmers. They spend a lot of time in the water. They are now fish. The Bishop of Quebec asked this to happen, and the church acquiesced. So now you can eat beaver during Lent, which is weird, even though beaver definitely a mammal. Kind of strange. And it's not just beaver. For example, turtles ain't meat. That's considered a fish. Alligator ain't meat. Considered a fish. Now, some of these things make sense in the little rules that we've drawn for ourselves because alligators aren't mammals. So, okay, could maybe not be meat. I don't know. This is, again, just for discussion. What do you guys think? This is a science show. So to wrap it up, I want to bring it back to science. We can't really listen to what the church said in the 17th century, what the Bible said whenever it was put together. We can't even listen to our guts on this one. No pun intended. But instead, let's go back to the American Meat Science Association. And I mean, they have meat in the name, so one would hope that they would know what meat is. And according to them, meat is defined to be skeletal muscle and its associated tissues derived from mammalian, avian, reptilian, amphibian, and aquatic species commonly harvested for human consumption. So animals that we eat, which kind of brings us full circle, right? Is that the best definition? Talk amongst yourselves. I have no idea. But what meat is, like what it really is sort of whatever we say it is. If tomorrow we decided that meat grown in a lab was just as meaty as meat grown on a cow, that's our decision. We can make that decision as a group of humans. Or if something that is a taste of meat just tastes like meat, we could call that meat just as easily, even if it's made of plants. Is this idea us returning to history where meat and food are the same thing, or is this the future of meat? Is the question that I'm posing to you. What do you think? Because we have products right now that are both lab-grown meat and the Impossible Burger, as it's been branded, which is a plant-based meat. Is lab-grown meat a thing? I'm so happy that we have Seeker Plus back. I know some of you are super excited as well. Hopefully more of you will get excited as this goes on. Please go over to the community tab if you have any ideas for future episodes of Seeker Plus. This is just going to be the first one, but it's going to keep coming. Next week, we're going to continue this discussion with a couple of writers from Thrillist who've dug really deep into whether lab-grown meat is vegetarian. It's going to be a really interesting discussion. I'm super excited for this, so make sure you come back next week for that. Subscribe to Seeker to make sure that you don't miss that, and also check out this episode here about personality. We did a sort of pilot of Seeker Plus where we talked about that not too long ago. Thanks again for watching. I'm Trace. See you next time.